Hello everyone, this is a channel about engines. In this session we will disassemble a naturally aspirated Mercedes-Benz 422 V8 engine with 5 inches pistons. The engine has run about 500,000 kilometers, half a million. After the last repair it was serviced, but the engine wasn't repaired by me last time, it was repaired somewhere else. The reason for disassembly is that the coolant got into the oil. Presumably the coolant is leaking from under the sleeves, the rubber seals have melted, the rubber seals have lost their shape, the sealing rubber is under the sleeves, and the coolant is getting into the oil drop by drop. This is quite a common malfunction on these engines. The issue is due to non-original rubber seals of unknown quality, possibly Turkish or Chinese. Installing original rubber seals, if they still exist, would likely resolve the problem. This is the condition it is in currently. I didn't wash this engine, didn't clean it especially with a carker or anything, just to take it apart like this. We can see that oil is leaking here from the cylinder head, so it's probably coming from somewhere near the fuel pump. Apparently the rubber seal that goes on the oil channel has also melted. This video will just be about disassembly, so I'll be taking things apart and showing the condition of the bearings, rings, maybe the sleeves and everything else. We'll take a look and see firsthand what's happening to the engine after 500,000 kilometers, especially considering that it's still running.
First, I'm removing the fuel.
Pipes, hose, return lines from the manifold, and air hoses. One bolt broke, so I'll have to heat it up and unscrew it later. Honestly, I don't see any Tassovi here yet. What I said earlier about Tassovi was just based on what the engine owner told me. And now, as I'm taking it apart myself, I'm looking at it and I'm not sure if there's an oil Tassovi here or not. Because on this cover, well, there would definitely just be some condensation collected and there would be white stuff like foam, this kind of white foam. And I didn't see it anywhere, not under the valve covers or anywhere else. But what I saw was very interesting, really very interesting. These are all broken springs. Here we can see a broken spring on the intake valve, again a broken spring on the intake valve, and then again a broken spring on the intake valve. A broken spring on the exhaust valve, both on the intake and on the exhaust. Looking from the opposite side, again the spring is broken both on the intake valve and on the exhaust valve. In general, all the springs are broken. As I said, it was jamming the rocker arm, so I assumed that the engine simply went out of control and the rocker arm was jamming. Now I looked here and noticed something interesting. There's no stop bolt. That means it either unscrewed itself or it just wasn't there at all. So the rack moves all the way to the stop. Here's the hole, and the stop bolt should be screwed into it. It's adjusted precisely on the test bench, meaning, for example, with this platform, it hits the bolt so the rack doesn't jump over. It goes strictly to a certain point and then back. I suppose the following. Maybe there was no solo in this engine. Maybe the whole... The reason for this is the absence of this bolt. Maybe it somehow unscrewed itself because of vibration or something else, I don't know, after it unscrewed. The rack got jammed and the engine started to over-rev, after it started to over-rev. So, as we can see, I think this is just the beginning. There's still a lot of interesting stuff inside. I think I'll find it. As we can see, yes, it broke all the springs. That is literally out of the whole engine. There are only 1, 2, 3 springs left on that side, maybe 1 or 2. In 20 years of practice, this is the first time I've seen something like this, where all the springs are broken the very first time. I'm curious to see what's next. There will be more. So now I need to mark the fuel pump and remove it. I'll keep turning it until the marks line up. That means my marks, the movable and the fixed marks, are aligned. Now I'm looking at the flywheel. This is my inspection window, so right here I should have a mark, but it's really inconvenient to get in here and take a look right now. Right now I'm just making a temporary mark in this spot, and later, when I remove the flywheel, it'll be easy for me to see exactly which degree this mark is at. When installing, I'll probably use a different flywheel because this one is already all chewed up. The springs were broken, likely on the disc, and it's evident that it's not the original one, as it's not even tightened properly. It appears that the flywheel was completely removed. Now I'm making a mark and removing the fuel pump. Now my task is to remove the heads, so in order to remove the heads I need to take off the injectors. But it's the same here, only everything is clogged with dirt, right up to the nuts. Try to get to them. So, in order to save time, I'll do it like this. I'll clean the dirt here and just unscrew this bolt without removing the injectors. Some of you might wonder why I didn't cover the injector itself or the return line. Everything here is covered in dirt. That's because the injectors will definitely be disassembled and thoroughly cleaned, and the nozzles will be replaced. When replacing the nozzle, everything gets a full cleaning, so there's nothing to worry about. Even if something gets in there, it'll all be washed and blown out later. And now I take this kind of wrench. I have one like this. Sometimes there's a factory Mercedes key, but that's just a luxury we can only dream of, so I use this kind of wrench. All the bolts under the injectors on both sides are unscrewed. Next, I need to remove the remaining bolts securing the heads in place. So I've removed the heads. The first thing I want to say is that there will be a small correction. So the engine has a piston diameter not of 128 by 130. Here on the piston it's written 129, 85 to 30, piston, Kesovsky. The KS mark indicates that the previous repair involved installing a new piston set. There is minor visual wear, less than expected. The carbon needs to be cleaned off, which I will do now. Despite expecting worse, it's still mostly okay. Next, I need to remove the flywheel. And all these protruding parts, how could I have turned the engine over? So let's also check the condition of the cylinder heads. Based on the carbon deposits, the cylinders were functioning well. The valves differ slightly, with one larger opening and two smaller ones, but it's not a significant issue. Overall, the carbon indicates the cylinders were working quite well. There is a bit of moisture here. This might have appeared after the spring broke and it was still running for some time.
Was running.
So,
Let's take a look at the condition of the cylinder heads, the gaskets. They're pretty good gaskets, by the way. Erling, here's the gasket mark, and they're really good. So, after all this time, even the rubber parts are still soft. And let's check the condition of the heads, which means the gasket is good. It will wash and clean all of this, the sediment trap. It's actually supposed to be clogged on purpose. There's a corner, a channel, but the block doesn't have a special channel. Here, all of this collects after all. Everything needs to be washed and sold. So I also need to check where my mark is. That is, here's my notch. I turn it and look. The ignition was set, so this is our 510-15. It was set at 10 degrees. 10 degrees, that's a very late ignition. Well, not very late, not too late, but it could be set a little earlier. I'll do it when I set it up. I'll set it to 15 degrees, I'll do it. The oil seal, it's just a simple one with a spring. That's why everything here is damp. It made this oil seal wet. So I'll be installing an oil seal, as I usually do, an Erling one without a spring. Acrylic rubber. So I turned the engine over and now I need to remove the oil pan. Here you can see that the oil pan has already been welded. The drain plug is homemade. It's usually located right here, so I'm taking everything off. The oil pan, here's the weld. The whole pan has been welded and re-welded. Here's the crack. There was a patch welded on. A new plug was welded in. The pan is clean. There are no shavings. Nothing. The pickup is not clogged with anything. The pump is a powerful one. 43. The height of these walls is 43 millimeters. Sometimes it's 38, but not less. There's nothing particularly scary here at first glance. Now, of course, we'll keep going. We'll take a closer look. So next I'll remove the oil pump. So next, I need to remove the cover, but before I take off the cover, I need to unscrew it. This is the compressor tube. Cooling fluid is supplied to the compressor. What you can see right away here is the compressor drive gear. It needs to be replaced. And that's because there's a washer, a spring washer, which apparently has fallen apart. So the gear needs to be replaced, and of course the seal needs to be replaced as well. So the gasket here was a good one, a metal asbestos type. By the way, this was also assembled with red sealant. In my previous video there were like 50 comments about this sealant. This one was also assembled with red sealant. No, I assembled it. Later, of course, I'll also be taking apart the compressor, checking everything for defects and overhauling it too. But that's for later. I removed the casing. After removing the casing, you must check the timing marks on the crankshaft, camshaft, and timing mechanism. Here we see 2 marks and a dot on the crankshaft gear. Understand how it was positioned and by which marks. Check to ensure there are no other marks. And that's it. Now everything is clear. Restore it according to these marks. I need to remove the heat exchanger, and I also need to remove the front cover. We're interested in the coolant. Was there coolant here? Did it leak from under the sleeve? I'm going to check each sleeve like this. Actually, I can already see these leaks, these rusty leaks. That's coolant coming from under the sleeve. Here we can already see the coolant was present, but it wasn't in such large amounts that there would be deposits on the covers, but it was present even now. When turning the engine, you can feel it sticking. I'll show you now as I turn it. And you can feel it, I'm applying force. My pry bar is flexing once the spot breaks loose again. You can feel that there's hydrogen on the insert, so the salt, this glue, doesn't stay. So now I just looked at the main caps. This is the mark 345. These aren't factory marks. The factory marks are here in this spot. For example, you can barely see it, but here you can see 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, and so on 11. And you can see that the cap, it's like this surface has been ground. This means that the block was machined. That is, these places where the main bearings sit, these beds, they were all machined, and somewhere on the block a mark is put. Here it is. 9th month, 11th year, that is. In the 11th year, the beds were installed in September. Now it's January, 28.5 years. Now I need to loosen all the main bolts, all the connecting rod bolts, so for this I take this long hex key, insert the paw, brace it somewhere so the engine doesn't turn, doesn't spin on the table. I've loosened all the main and connecting rod bolts. Now I'm tilting the block to one side so the sleeves are facing this way, so I can take out the pistons and so the rings don't get stuck. I must clean off this carbon buildup now, or it will be very difficult to remove the pistons later. I need to remove all this carbon buildup, otherwise the ring will just get stuck on it, and it will be very hard to get it through. Well, and after I remove the carbon buildup, you can immediately feel the wear. Even through the gloves, I can clearly feel this step. With the carbon buildup cleaned off, I'm now removing the connecting rod and piston. The bearing inserts size and production date 2011 match the machining date of the block, indicating they were both produced in the same year. The condition is not perfect, with some scratches and wear, but it's not really bad either. I'll wipe the journal later, measure it, and check it. So we can see that a new piston was installed last time, and over such a distance, 500,000 kilometers. That is, nothing particularly bad happened to them. There are some minor scuffs, of course, but that's nothing serious, not even scuffs really, just scratches, let's call them that. The pistons are in perfect condition, in very good condition. If everything continues like this, then I will only replace the rings, sleeves, and bearings. I still need to check the bearing, it's stuck over there, that's how it is for me. So we can see that the bearing installed in the connecting rod, the one that takes the direct load from the piston, has suffered the most damage from all the pressure. It has more wear, but that's how it's supposed to be. Here you can already see the indicator, this red one. It's an indicator that shows the bearing needs to be replaced. And that's how I remove all the pistons. Basically, if everything is the same, I won't show anything else. If there's another interesting case, I'll turn on the camera and record it. I've taken out all the pistons. The pistons are all in about the same condition, in very good condition. The pistons are in excellent condition. Only the liners, rings and bearings will be replaced. I want to show you, here is the most damaged one. This is the 5th cylinder. They're all about the same. Now I'll take out the crankshaft. So we can see the condition of the bearing shell. This shine appeared after the coolant got in. The coolant started to create a film, and because of that, it was like it wasn't burning, almost as if it was being scorched. But it should be matte, like this matte color. This wear should look like this. The indicator has started showing, and the bearings are perfectly normal. The only thing is, if there were rubber seals here, expensive good ones, that wouldn't have melted and wouldn't have started leaking coolant. This engine could have run for another 500,000 kilometers. The only issue was the rubber seals. It seems like a cheap part, a cheap spare part, but because of it, the whole engine fails. As they say, Mercedes cars don't break down, but they do break down because of Turkish rubber seals. If the seals were of good quality, it would have kept running and running. So there are no serious complaints here at all. Everything is in excellent condition. So, let's look. The bearing size is 0.25 hundredths. That means the main bearings are a quarter, and the connecting rod bearings are a half. Since this is a naturally aspirated engine, not turbocharged, this crankshaft is normal for it. If properly ground, it will run well. I'm taking out the crankshaft now. Basically, I'm saying the engine is in perfect condition. If it weren't for these rubber parts, if it weren't for the coolant, it would still run. It could easily go another 500,000 kilometers. And next, I need to take out the camshaft. That is, it doesn't hold here at all. It's just that the weights don't rattle. There are also traces of coolant corrosion. The tappets are good, these are reinforced ones, and usually nothing happens to these tappets. That is, you can see visually that none of them are chipped by the tappet. Probably there won't be any questions about that either. I'm removing the tappet and knocking out the sleeves, completing the disassembly. Since these sleeves won't be used anymore, you can go ahead and knock them out. So that means I've knocked out the sleeves, and what I immediately see is that there are steel rings installed, so I'll need to measure them and check what thickness they are. Visually it looks closer to 20 than 0.15. I still need to remove the rubber seals. After removing the rubber seals, this is what I observe. So, on this cylinder, the one I noticed from the very beginning, the one that was leaking, it turns out it's the 4th cylinder. First of all, these aren't the right kind of rubber seals. Here, even if you compare by color, you can see that this one is a nice green color and this one is a toxic green. By texture. They're like this. All of these are denser while these ones are like jelly. Here are 7 identical cylinders and 1 cylinder with these kinds of rubber rings. Most likely it's possible that only this cylinder was leaking, and of course there are 5 more cylinders. There aren't many questions, that is, it's all sealed with sealant, and the rubber ring, here it is, it's crushed. So during installation it might have gotten deformed like this. Everything there needs cleaning and checking, which is difficult. Regarding the 5th and 4th cylinders, there are 5 rubber rings. We will need to inspect the seating area itself. There may be some defects there.
No.
It's pointless to have it. They sealed it up with sealant like this. All this will be cleaned, inspected, and checked for defects. This is roughly what it looks like for now. That is, the bushing will be replaced, so I will change it because as you can see there's already some wear here. The camshaft bushings, the main and connecting rod bearings will be replaced, and the crankshaft will be measured for size. Maybe yes, no, I think it won't need to be ground, but maybe, I don't know. It's possible, and then the rubber seals, sleeves, new piston rings, new oil seals, and gaskets will be replaced as well. Of course, and a complete overhaul of the cylinder heads as well. We'll need to check why all the springs are broken, and also inspect the valves themselves, the guides, the seats, and the stems. That means a complete overhaul of the cylinder heads. The next steps include sending the pump for a complete overhaul, repairing the high pressure fuel pump and injectors, and replacing the nozzles. That's the current scope of work. This video focused on the disassembly process. Thanks for watching and best of luck to all. Goodbye.